create an OJIBWE bird trap, you simply need a stick that I can sharpen on one end to push it into the ground, and then on the other end we're going to flatten two sides and make a little hole in the middle. Then we need a stop stick that goes right in there to be able to create a platform for the bird to sit on, and also we will have a counterweight. The counterweight is there to pull the noose close, and that will keep the bird into position. Once we flatten both sides of the stick, I'm going to bevel the edge. The beveling is just there to make sure that we don't split the wood. Wood has a natural grain, and if you don't bevel it, it can easily split in that direction. That should do fine. What we need to do now is create a hole right in the middle of our stick there. So I'm making a small little mark. If I simply start to create a hole in there, because of the grain, the wood will simply split. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create stop cuts, which is simply a cut horizontal above and below the mark where you want to make your hole, and then also two cuts on either side of where you want to create your hole. That makes a little block, and if you hollow the wood out in that block, it will prevent it from splitting further than the lines that you've created. Now, by simply taking your knife and twisting it, you will start to hollow out the hole. These two holes will meet up. At this point, I will create myself a little tool to help me with the creation of that hole. So I simply take a small piece of wood, shave the bark off to have a nice smooth surface, and you shave it off to roughly the size of the hole that you want to create. That is about right. Now it's a simple task of pushing this little stick into the hole, wiggling it about a bit, and then twist it to create a very neat hole right in the middle of your stick. Sharpening the other end will allow you to push it into the ground so it can stay stable in one position. And that should stand on its own. The next step is to create the platform for the bird to sit on. We want an area that we can easily cover with a noose, as we're going to create a noose using paracord. The most important part is the end of the stick, this thick part. This you taper down a bit, round it at the end, and this should be able to sit in the hole without being able to push through. For the string for my snare, I'm going to use the shoelace from my boot. I've replaced my shoelaces with paracord, as paracord are absolutely incredible stuff to use in the outdoors. They've got an outer sleeve which can still function as my normal shoelace, but it also allows me to pull the insides out, the inner cores out, and create more cordage that I can use for traps, snares, building shelters, and all sorts of binding purposes. If I cut the sealed end of this piece of paracord off, you will notice it's got inner strands. These inner strands can be easily pulled out. There is 6 separate strands inside this paracord, which gives me 7 pieces of the same length of cordage. I also now have the outer sleeve of my original shoelace or paracord, and I'm going to use that to relace my boots. For this trap, all you do is make a really simple overhand knot to create a loop on the one end of the piece of string. That open end or that loop will allow me to create a very simple pulling noose, which means that as soon as this end is pulled, the whole snare can move and close around what you're trying to catch. Judge the size of your sitting platform relatively with your hand like that, and then all you do is you create a simple knot at the point just behind the size of that snare. And make sure that that knot you've created in the loop can easily pull through the opening hole that you've created. The next step is to tie a rock to the other end of your paracord, which will act as a counterweight for your trap. I'm going to set this trap. What you need to do is allow the weight to pull that little knot almost up to the hole. Take your little stick platform, gently just push it so that it sits next to the hole. If I leave that, it's going to fall out on its own, so there's nothing holding it in place. As I allow the weight to pull that knot into the bottom of the stick, the weight will hold my platform, and I should have a very, very sensitive trap. Gently, without moving the bottom knot, you'll position your snare right on top of the platform. The idea is that a bird will come, he will sit right on top of this stick, and as he falls through the stick, it will be dislodged, catching the bird by its feet, and it will hang there until you can come retrieve it to have a meal. I'm going to set up my OJIBWE bird trap in this spot over here because there's no other high points in any close proximity, which means that if a bird comes down to the water to drink, he needs to come up to this high point, as this is the highest point in the area that he will notice. This trap is set up perfectly, exactly the right place. I've packed some rocks around the base to make it more secure, and this will allow a bird to easily find this high point, come and sit on it, and hopefully I will trap it.
This is just my survival way, walking in my survival way, wild and free, my survival way.